Tesco's accused of using cash and carry to squeeze village stores out of their business. We're going to read into this exclusive from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from The Guardian with the headline that Tesco's have been accused of using cash and carry to squeeze village stores out of their business. The exclusive reveals that the independent retailers running many post offices saying wholesale arm Booker is restricting supplies and deliveries. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. So what this exclusive is revealing is that basically not just Tesco's, but the wholesale arm Booker is making things more difficult, for smaller businesses. Now, as I'm sure you guys are fully aware, due to the issues surrounding Brexit and the issues that are coming up with them when it comes to supplies and that when it comes from the EU, as well as the fact that we are in a cost of living crisis. It's obviously much more difficult, and you need to count your pennies a lot more. With the same with homes, and we're same with many homes up and down the country. They have costs that they need to look after and maintain as well, as small and medium businesses do. For larger businesses, many of them seem to have a sufficient amount of money so they can handle things. And normally, what they can sometimes do is obviously lay off staff or whatever to ensure they keep up to their day-to-day profits. Now, for small stores like this one we're going to read into, it's not as simple as that. And as the bills for maintaining the shop and all the other expenses that come along with that, and not to mention inflation as well, all these things add up. And it's not helping that when big supermarkets, which is what the Guardian is allegedly saying in this exclusive, are making it more difficult for the small retail stores who don't make a lot of money. And it comes across to me, this headline, that Tesco's and other supermarkets are making it more and more difficult for small and medium businesses. Now, I already know that they're suffering, because there used to be, over the last 13-14 years, and I've seen this around, where there's just not enough local shops, local businesses that have been around for decades upon decades, some up to 50 to 80 years. Your local shop in your area that has a history behind it. A lot of them have struggled to maintain or stay there, and some have gone simply because they just can't keep up anymore with keep up with things anymore. It's just far worse now for some of them. And yes, they've been through problems in throughout history, but some of them the problems in this day and age are so much more difficult now than they was in previous times. I can give you. I think I've mentioned this story before about how not too far away from me, there's a I think they were called Home Fry, their shop was, and they did lots of household stuff. They've been around for more than 50 years. So they've gone through all sorts of problems. They've been run by a couple, an elderly couple, bless them, who have always tried to keep prices as firm and fair as they possibly can, obviously. I've been when I used to live in the area where they was. I always had a friendly relationship whenever I needed help with certain small little niggles, like things like light bulbs or whatever, little things like that when I was renting at that time. And they were always very helpful, very kind, and their prices were also very, very fair as well. And it was just about a couple of months ago when they closed down. And the reason that they closed down is simply because everything just costs too much for them. And when you have things that are already costing way too much, and then, yes, obviously when it comes to items on your shelves, having so many basic necessity items, and it's getting harder to keep them and maintain them, it's making things even worse. So it doesn't help that these supermarkets are making things more difficult for small, medium businesses, even if they are not intentionally trying to squeeze small and medium businesses. Whether they're intentionally or not is a question you can ask in the comment section down below. But whether they're intentionally or not intentionally doing so, it's not helping whatsoever. And it's really, really important that we wherever you are, wherever you're living, is to try and look after small businesses. Try and help. Always try and support your local businesses, your local butchers, your local bakeries, your local shops, the ones that have been there for years and years and years, that are part of your community. Always try to, whenever possible, to try and spend a little bit of money if you can. And support these businesses, because they're very treasured, and once they're gone, guys, they're gone. They don't come back, and that's the thing. Um, they really are precious, and we don't want to lose them. We really don't want to lose them. And I just really hope that people feel what I feel about small businesses, as I'm sure some of you guys do. When you walk down your high street and you remember some of the shops that that you used to have on your high street that are no longer there. Ones that you really liked and really meant something to you. Of course, change is an inevitable thing, but it shouldn't be the case that change should happen because of what government does. It should be a case of because of the way the business was handled, or the way business was conducted, of whatnot. So it shouldn't always be because of the government and decisions that have been made, or, as allegedly been put here, by supermarkets squeezing small and medium businesses, allegedly. So, village stores have sounded the alarm of what they claim is a battle for survival, causing the supermarket group Tesco's of using its cash and carry arm to squeeze them out of business by restricting supplies and deliveries of groceries. Independent retailers, many of them also running the local post office, have told The Guardian that a series of changes recently introduced by Tesco's wholesale arm Booker were added to pressures at a time when some villages have been left with just one small shop, or none at all. They claim Booker, that's the arm sale. It's actually called Booker, the thing. It's called actual Booker. So they're claiming that they have reduced the range of items available by up to 30% at some sites, withdrawn customer favourites, such at some sites including Yorkshire Tea, Roundtree Sweets and Coleman's Mustard, and reduced the availability of reliability of deliveries. Now, I think it's also, again, I have to stress this, that while it may be the supermarkets responsible for this as well, we also have to remember that Brexit is playing a factor into this. I'm sorry, it is playing a factor into all of this. I'm sorry if you don't like that, but remember, there's a lot of things that some of us have from the EU that we won't be getting as much as we used to, or little, or not much at all, or it's going to cost even more than it normally does on the average price, because of how much red tape and fast it's going to take to get it in once the new checks come in at the end of April. So that's an important thing to make the distinction. I'm pretty sure it was end of April. Correct me in the comments section if I got that wrong. Andrew Goodacre, the chief executive of the British Independent Retailers Association, the BIRA, called on the UK competition watchdog to examine the issue and said it would be raising the matter with Kevin Hollinrake, the Minister for Small Business. Do you guys honestly think the Minister for Small Business is going to do anything regarding this? No, I didn't think so. I think it's shocking, Goodacre said of the problems reported by small retailers. This shows the worst of a large company bullying little shops, communities that want these small shops, and these are not businesses making millions of pounds. 7 years ago, the competition watchdog took a much criticised decision to wave through the acquisition of Booker, the country's biggest grocery wholesaler, by Tesco's, its biggest supermarket chain. Via Booker, Tesco's also controlled the Londis, Bodgins and Premier groups. So these groups, for those who don't know, you may have, for those in the UK will know, but for those who outside the UK who don't know, so these shops are like small little shops that have like confectionery, drinks, newspapers, magazines, that kind of stuff. Your local convenience. Some of them are convenience, and some of them have a little bit more than just convenience in them. You see them dotted around the UK, and they also use via Booker as well, these ones as well. So they just make up thousands of independent stores tied into buying deals with the wholesaler. In 2017, at the time of the Booker takeover, rival wholesales wrote to the Competition and Market Authority, warned that it would hand Tesco's incontestable power over the procurement of all grocery categories in the UK. Now that's dangerous. Now this was at 2017, they were told. They were told that Tesco's would have too much power here because of Booker. And it seems like here it's coming more and more to fruition from what they're saying. Jonathan Cobb, who runs the village shop and post office in Midston, I can't say that word, apologies, Gloucestershire, said it felt like the fears were raised were now a reality. His local booker has stopped selling sought-after brands including Coleman's mustard, Tuck, and Checkard's biscuits. The alternatives provided are often branded with the Jack's labeled supplied by Booker, which has a packaging display the catch line part of the Tesco's family. Yeah, that's really bad because if you go into a local shop and you see something that says that on it, you're going to assume that they're ripping off the Tesco's supermarket. You're going to automatically think that because it's not in a Tesco shop. This is in a local independent shop. So it's going to give you the wrong impression of that store. Even if you're not living locally in the area and you don't know the shop, if you happen to be passing through or you're staying over, whatever the reason may be, okay, that you're in that shop, right? You see that on there, your first reaction, your first thought is not going to be is not going to be, they're working in conjunction with Tesco's. No, that's not going to be your first thought. Your first thought is going to be, they're stealing products from Tesco's. That's going to be your first thought. And that's going to leave a sour taste in the shop owner's mouth. That's the impression you get. Now, you might disagree with me, but when you go into a shop and you see something like, say, for instance, Number 7, which is a skincare brand that is exclusive to Boots. If you see that outside of a Boots shop, that's obviously there's something wrong there, for example. That's just one that they're basically taking their product and trying to shift it off for a higher price and taking it off and selling it off somewhere else. So that's kind of the thing. So maybe it's not the right analogy to make, but I would say obviously putting that sticker on part of the Tesco's family, it's a bit of an insult because you're basically implying the product that you're buying as well. You're also saying, don't buy here, go to our giant supermarket in Tesco's. It's another thing that kind of screams out to me as well, which I don't like as well. Considering they already make enough money and they have enough customers and whatnot as it is, including myself, because I do shop in Tesco's, because we have one down the road that I use. Cobb said he did not wish to sell Jack's products as it says Tesco's on it. And by the way, just for that clarity as well, I don't have a local supermarket where I live, and if I did, like a local one, if I did, I'd use them more. As much as 30% of the range had previously bought from Booker could no longer be sourced, said Cobb, and it felt like Tesco's was slowly pushing us aside. He cannot order enough for a delivery, and there's nowhere to store those goods in his small shop. He also wants to continue supporting local farms. He also wants to continue supporting local farms by buying fresh meat, fruit, and vegetables from them, and does not want to be solely reliant on one whatsoever. No, that's good. No, you shouldn't have to rely on one, and you want to be doing it from local because then obviously, and you get those local fruits and veg, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's totally understandable. So The Guardian had interviewed 5 small retailers and was shown comments by others from online forums. Shop owners agreed that as much as 20 to 30% of the lines they usually bought from Booker has been affected. A wider number of items can be sourced from Booker if a retailer requests a delivery. However, many small stores, which only make the sales of about £1,400 a week, cannot reach £1,200 a week minimum order. Yeah, these you have to remember, these shops don't make a lot of money. They don't make a lot of money, but they some of them really is just essential to have there. Where you are. When you don't want to. For example, obviously, some of you walk down the road to your shop. You don't want to get into, if you've forgotten your milk or bread, for example, you don't want to get into a car and drive to a supermarket to buy them. You don't really want to do that. You want to pop down to the shop and grab it and get it because you're busy with doing whatnot sort of thing as well. So, these small little things matter. So one Philly shop owner said she did order enough to get delivery, spending about £1,500 a week. But she said Booker now charged £40 for delivery and has reduced its range by a significant amount so that she will have to try and find an alternative source to supply. She added that she was no longer able to order just one of the 2 packs of frozen chips or fish fingers she needed because Booker now demands a minimum of a whole case and there was not space in a freezer. She says she had spent hours searching for alternative sources of supply, but they were too far away or required additional work such as inputting every item into the till by hand, whereas bookers provide the information electronically for a quick download. She said she felt like Booker was deliberately trying to squeeze us out of the market, so everybody has to go to the big Tesco's, and this is exactly what it feels like based on this, here, that they want to make it more difficult. They're making it allegedly here more difficult for these small shops, like to say having a whole case here, just this part here, frozen chips and fish fingers here, you have to buy it in a whole case now. Like these shops, they don't have like big storage rooms. Some of them may be able to have the space, but some shops don't. So it's not helpful. It's not going to put me out of business, but I'm going to lose customers, and that will make everything harder. If they carry on the policy, it could just be a matter of years before I go out of business, she added. Another village shop owner said, since Tesco's have taken Booker over, it has gotten harder and harder to get products on the shop. Only 2 weeks ago, they discontinued 400 retail lines. 400 retail lines. That's a lot of lines to discontinue, guys. She said her local Booker would not provide a delivery, and she was not a catering business, for which the minimum order of wholesale requires is 150. Our local pub has delivery nearly every week. They only have to spend about £100 with no delivery charge. The lorry goes right past the shop, she added. You can tell something's fishy there. So one industry insider said the changes were hitting the smallest village stores the hardest, particularly those in rural areas that might have little choice of wholesalers. And this is also another thing as well that that's come to my mind when I'm thinking more and more about this, guys, is that certain rural areas that don't have a supermarket and don't want a supermarket, this is applying pressure to those areas to have a supermarket. This is also applying pressure to them because if your local rural area that doesn't want a supermarket and you're happy with the shops that you have, if Booker is doing what we believe him here to be doing, they will make things more and more difficult for these local shops, which will then in turn make it harder for these small businesses to keep making money, the little money that they do. And we've been pushing the emphasis on, you should bring in a supermarket, pushing that emphasis onto people. And in rural areas, some people don't want that emphasis, and they are happy with what they have. So it's another dodgy little retail tactic for them to try and get into a new market, in a market where people just essentially don't want them, but they know if once they're there, they won't be moving, and everybody will come to them as well. So that's another tactic that they're trying to do here. The well-placed source said Tesco's wants to move into the catering trade, and that is their main objective. There's been a lot of increase in catering stock, and in order to make space for it, it has to reduce retail stock. He added that Booker has recently bought larger delivery lorries that struggle across small country lanes, and there has to mean cutbacks to delivery routes. This is another terrible thing as well. If you're this is another terrible thing for the Bookers. So normally they have small minivans or decent sized lorries that can get into rural areas. But if you're talking about the big long trucks, like we're talking about really big trucks that have to go into rural areas in order to make deliveries, like not only is that going to be a pain in the backside for them to get to these rural areas, but it's also going to be upsetting for the rural communities themselves who see these giant trucks coming through their areas as well, just to go to a local shop to fill it up as well. And that doesn't paint a very nice picture for the local shop either. So just in that aesthetic as well is not a good thing as well. All these little things add up. You can see the picture being painted here that allegedly Tesco's and Booker are trying to do here. You can see the picture being painted here. Booker has said it's not aiming to increase its catering market share at the expense of its retail trade, and recently invested in a distribution centre to grow retail capacity. It confirmed it did not deliver in some rural areas at the southwest, but said it had not been changed recently. Retailers could get deliveries and said they were no longer seen as a priority, so they could find deliveries delayed at the last minute. It's harder and harder to get a delivery. The well-placed industry source said there's an imbalance of power between local shops and a large supplier. Booker announced in February that it would tighten up its range for retailers which it said become a little bloated, according to a report in the trade journal Better Retailing. The wholesale said it would be introducing Jack's own label and more fresh produce after reviewing 151 different grocery categories last year. It promised to respect regional and local lines. Sheila Gallagher, Booker's commercial director, said the changes would make a wholesale range more effective with better efficiencies. Spokesperson for Booker said, "We remain absolutely committed to serving community shops across the UK, either through branch or delivery. Last year, we reviewed our range across all brands and own brand products to ensure that we have the right offering in response to the feedback that customers want more consistency across branches. As part of that review, we removed products that customers weren't choosing to make space for products that really matter. Overall feedback has been positive and we've already seen improvements in availability." Well, that's obviously not what this report is saying here. So they're saying it. So Booker are arguing no, that's not the case, and we're just making necessary changes here. But obviously, some of the small retailers here and some of the people who have spoken in the article here are saying something completely different to what them. So I would say, who do you believe? I think is the best question we have to ask really on this. But independent retailers are very important and we need to look after them, just like small local businesses in our areas. We do need to try and look after them, and if you can spend money in them, please try to do so. And maybe you guys might want to share some of your small business and retailers in your area. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys make of this situation for small businesses and retail? Do you think Brexit has played a part in this? Do you think that Tesco's, with their wholesale arm Booker, is making things more difficult for them, as the exclusive in The Guardian is telling us? Have you noticed that in your local shops or retailers in any way, shape or form? Are you noticing a change in items on your shelves in any way, shape or form? Let me know your thoughts and more in the comment section down below. If you found this video informative and helpful, please hit the like button, it'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or joining me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.